The twin suns of Narathfor were low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dusty surface of the frontier moon. Small trade ships floated lazily above the outpost's landing pads, their engines humming quietly against the thin atmosphere. In the midst of the bustling hub, the humans and aliens mingled in careful patterns, each species keeping its distance but exchanging goods, tools, and stories. Jonas Hale moved through the crowd like someone invisible. His brown jacket was worn, with patches of dark oil stains, and his hands were scarred from years of working with machinery. Most of the newcomers did not even notice him. It suited him fine. Jonas had spent the last few years keeping to himself, repairing ships for credits and avoiding anything beyond the simple routines of life on Nerath. -4 he had learned a long time ago that some things were better left behind, memories, scars, dangers, but life had a way of dragging the past back into the present. Today, it began with the clatter of metal against metal. Jonas was crouched beneath the landing bay of a medium-sized cargo ship, fixing the thruster alignment when a young voice called out, "Excuse me, are you the one who works here?" Jonas straightened, brushing dust from his hands. The voice belonged to someone small, standing at the edge of the dock. She was alien, with pale lavender skin that glowed faintly in the twilight and eyes the color of liquid silver. Her hair was long and silky, tucked behind her pointed ears, and she moved with cautious curiosity. "I repair ships," Jonas said, keeping his voice calm and neutral. "Do you have a ship that needs work?" The girl shook her head. "No. I was told I might find someone here who knows the stars and maybe the dangers between them." Jonas paused, surprised. Most people didn't talk like that. Dangers. "What kind of dangers?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Her silver eyes flicked toward the horizon, as if she could see beyond the dust clouds. "The Void Stalkers," she said softly. "They are creatures we have feared for generations. And yet someone tells me a human can face them and survive." Jonas's stomach tightened. He had tried to forget those days, the nights when the shadows moved with teeth and claws, when the screams of his friends echoed across the void. He had survived, but only barely. He didn't usually talk about it. "Humans?" she asked, tilting her head. "I am Lyra, and I need to know. Can a human really face them?" Jonas felt a cold memory brush across his mind, but he kept his expression neutral. "Some humans can," he said finally. "Some survive, yes. But it's not something most would want to try." Lyra's gaze lingered on his arms as if she could sense more than he was saying. When his sleeve slipped a little while, he adjusted a panel on the thruster. She saw the scar's deep, jagged lines that ran across his skin. Her breath caught. You have faced them, haven't you?" She whispered. Jonas froze, then nodded slowly. "I did what I had to. It was a long time ago." Lyra took a careful step closer. "I've heard the stories, but I never imagined a human could survive. Not one human, and not many of them." Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "I thought, hey, only in legends do they fight monsters like these." Jonas looked away, letting the memories settle behind his eyes. "Legends are sometimes based on truth," he said quietly. "I was there. I saw them. I fought them. I survived." Lyra's silver eyes reflected the faint glow of the moons. "Then you understand fear," she said, "and courage, and the weight of the unknown." Jonas chuckled softly, though it was more bitter than joyful. "I understand more than I'd like to. Most people don't want to hear about it. That's why I stay here, fixing engines and thrusters. The past it doesn't like to let go." Lyra's gaze softened. "Sometimes the past has lessons we must remember. Sometimes it finds us for a reason." A sudden clatter interrupted their conversation. A small transport drone had tipped over, spilling crates across the landing pad. Jonas sighed and moved quickly, helping to lift the cargo back into place. Lyra followed, surprisingly strong for her size, moving gracefully despite the awkward crates as they worked. She asked questions, not about engines or tools, but about the creatures he had fought. Jonas answered in vague terms, careful not to reveal too much. He described their size, their speed, the way shadows seemed to bend around them. He described the fear, but also the determination it took to survive. Lyra listened with rapt attention. Every scar on his arms told a story she could feel, even if she didn't yet know the details. She realized that humans carried something special, an unspoken stubbornness, a willingness to confront the impossible. And she could see it in Jonas, in the quiet way he moved, the calm in his voice, and the scars that spoke louder than words. The sky darkened further as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. The landing bay lights flickered on, casting pools of yellow across the dusty ground. Jonas stepped back, wiping his hands, while Lyra looked at him with a mix of awe and cautious curiosity. "You've lived, and survived what my people only whisper about," she said finally. "I never thought it possible." Jonas shrugged. "Some survive. Not many. And those who do, they carry reminders." They gestured at his arms, then let the gesture fade. Lyra studied him for a moment, then said something that made Jonas blink. "I would like to learn. From you, not to fight them, but to understand. To see the courage it takes to face the things we fear." Jonas looked at her, surprised. Few people ever asked him that. Most wanted stories, or trophies, or simple entertainment. Lyra wanted understanding. Perhaps it was naive, perhaps it was wise. Either way, he nodded slowly. "Then, can try to explain," he said. As they walked toward the small settlement, the first stars began to twinkle overhead. Traders and travelers moved through the dusty streets, unaware of the quiet conversation that might change the way the species viewed the universe. Lyra kept glancing at Jonas's scars as if tracing the map of his past on his skin. She could feel the truth in them. The past was dangerous. The past was heavy. But it had also created something remarkable. A human who had survived the monsters her people feared. Jonas led her past the repair shops and cargo bays, to a small corner of the landing platform where he often worked alone. He began showing her some of the basic tools and explaining how they functioned. Lyra asked questions, her voice light but filled with curiosity. Every time she asked, Jonas felt a small flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long-time connection. Not just with her, with the possibility that his experiences might mean something beyond survival. By the time the night deepened, Lyra had learned a little about the way humans adapted, fought, and survived. Jonas had learned that perhaps sharing the past didn't always lead to danger. Sometimes it could inspire respect, even understanding. Finally, as they stood at the edge of the landing pad, Lyra turned to him. "I think I understand now. You've seen what we fear most. And yet you are here. You are alive. That gives hope." Jonas gave a faint smile, feeling the weight of the day settle behind him. Hope. Yes. That's one way to put it. The twin moons rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the outpost. Somewhere far in the distance, a faint shadow moved, almost unseen. Jonas felt it in the back of his mind, the instinct that had kept him alive all these years. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of peace. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't alone. Lyra glanced at him one last time before heading toward the settlement. "Tomorrow," she said, "I want to learn more about the stars and about courage." Jonas nodded, watching her small figure disappear into the settlement lights. He didn't know if he was ready for what she might uncover in his past, but for now, it didn't matter. He had survived the monsters, and maybe, just maybe, he could help another species see what humans were truly capable of. And somewhere in the shadowed distance, the universe seemed just a little smaller, just a little brighter, because a human and an alien had met him, begun to understand each other. The morning on Neroth 4 was quiet, with the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon. The settlement stirred to life as traders, miners, and travelers prepared for another day. The soft hum of engines blended with the occasional shout of merchants, calling out prices in multiple languages. Jonas Hale sat on a metal crate outside his small repair shop, sipping lukewarm coffee. His hands rested on his knees, fingers tracing the faint ridges of scars that ran along his arms. The scars had faded with time, but they remained a permanent reminder of battles long past. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You're awake early." He looked up. Lyra was standing there, her lavender skin glowing in the soft morning light. Her silver eyes reflected curiosity, excitement, and something else, respect. "I don't sleep much," Jonah said simply. "Old habits." She tilted her head, her gaze lingering on the scars again. I want to understand," she said softly. "Not just the stories, but the truth. About you. About the monsters." Jonah sighed and set down his coffee. He had avoided talking about his past for years. Sharing it was dangerous, but there was something about Lyra, her innocence and honesty, that made him pause. Maybe it was time. He motioned for her to sit on the crate beside him. "The truth is, not easy to hear," he began. "What I faced, it changes a person. It takes courage, yes, but it also takes fear. Fear that never really goes away." Lyra nodded. "I am ready to hear. I need to know. My people have legends about the Void Stalkers, but we've never seen one closely. I thought they were myths, until I saw you." Jonas took a deep breath and began. "Years ago, I joined a human expedition team. We were sent to the outer colonies, places humans didn't usually go. Our mission was simple: protect the settlers and trade stations from creatures we called Void Stalkers. They were not like anything normal. They moved in shadows, struck without warning, and were stronger and faster than anything we had fought before." Lyra's eyes widened. "Stronger than humans?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Yes," Jonas said. "They could crush a grown man with one strike. Their claws were like sharpened metal, and they had a strange way of disappearing in the darkness, only to appear where you least expected." He flexed his hands slowly, showing her the scars that told part of the story. "I was injured many times. Every scar here," he said, tapping his arms and shoulders, "is a memory. A reminder that I survived when others didn't." Lyra leaned forward. You survived many of them." "Alone?" Jonas shook his head. "Not alone. My team fought with me. Some survived, some didn't. The ones who didn't, I carry their memory, their courage. Every mission, every fight, I thought about them. I thought about why we were there. Protecting others even when we were scared, that's what kept me alive." She studied him quietly. "Humans. I see now why my people speak about you differently. We feared the Void Stalkers because no one else could face them. But you fought them. And you lived. That takes something beyond strength." Jonas gave a faint smile. "It's more than strength. It's fear, determination, and hope. You hope that you can survive, and you hope that others will too. That hope is sometimes stronger than any weapon." Lyra looked down, thinking. "My people. We live in fear of what we cannot see. We hear stories, but we avoid confrontation. And yet, you face them. I can't stop thinking about what that means. That humans, even a single human, could face such monsters." Jonas studied her, noticing the mixture of awe and confusion in her expression. "It's not easy. It's not glorious. Most of the time you are scared, exhausted, and alone. But there is something human, or maybe all sentient beings, that pushes you forward when survival depends on it. We make choices, and sometimes we do what seems impossible." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Then maybe we have underestimated humans. Maybe we've underestimated what courage can do." Jonas nodded. "Maybe. Humans are stubborn. We don't give up easily. That can be a blessing, or a curse." A faint rumble shook the ground. Jonas's senses, honed by years of danger, immediately went alert. He glanced toward the horizon, where shadows seemed to flicker unnaturally. He frowned. "The past sometimes comes back when you least expect it." Lyra noticed his expression. "What is it?" "Nothing. For now," he said, though his mind raced. "Just old instincts. When you face monsters like the Void Stalkers, you never completely stop noticing the shadows." She nodded slowly. "I see. So these scars are not just wounds. They are warnings. They are lessons. They tell a story of survival and courage that my people might not understand otherwise." Jonas appreciated her insight. Few could see that clearly. "Exactly. And sometimes, those lessons are shared only through experience, not words. For a moment, they sat quietly, watching the settlement wake around them. Traders shouted, children laughed, and cargo drones buzzed overhead. Jonas wondered if any of them realized how close danger had always been, how easily the shadows could have taken them. "Tell me," Lyra said finally, breaking the silence. "Were the creatures intelligent?" Jonas considered the question. "They aren't smart like humans, but they are cunning. They learn patterns, track prey, and work together. Some of the worst encounters were not from strength alone, but from their ability to predict our movements. That's why experience matters. That's why surviving once doesn't mean you survive again." She shivered slightly. "And yet you did. Time and again." Jonas nodded, looking at the horizon. "I had to. Not for glory, not for myself, but for others. The colonies, the settlers. Sometimes, that responsibility is heavier than the fear. It's heavier than the pain. But it gives you reason to keep going." Lyra's expression softened. "Then humans, even when small, fragile, or alone, can carry the weight of courage that others cannot. You are not just survivors. You are protectors." Jonas's lips twitched into a faint smile. That's a good way to put it. For the rest of the morning, Jonas shared small stories how he learned to anticipate the creatures, the strategies his team developed, and the moments when luck saved them as much as skill. Lyra listened intently, asking questions and connecting his memories to the legends her people had passed down. "You fought them," she said finally, "and lived. But more than that, you understand them. You know, their strength, their patterns, their shadows. That is something no book or legend could ever teach us. That is real knowledge." Jonas felt a small pride swell in him, but he tempered it. "It's knowledge, yes, but it comes with scars, inside and out. Not everyone can handle it." Lyra looked at him with quiet determination. I want to try. I want to understand so my people can learn, so we can face what we fear without running. Maybe humans are not just stubborn. Maybe you are teachers too." The word surprised him. He had never thought of himself as a teacher. He had always been a survivor, a protector, someone who faced danger because it was necessary. But in Lyra's eyes, he saw something else, a bridge between worlds, a chance to show another species what humanity could be. The day passed slowly, with Jonas guiding Lyra through the workshop and telling her stories that were both frightening and inspiring. She learned how humans adapted tools to face impossible odds, how strategy often mattered more than strength, and how courage was a conscious choice rather than an instinct, as the twin suns began to set again. Casting long shadows across the dusty streets, Lyra turned to him. "I see now," she said softly. "You are not just a human who survived. You are proof that courage can endure even when monsters are real, even when fear is all around you." Jonas watched her, feeling something he had not felt in a long time: hope. Not the fragile hope of survival alone, but the hope that what he had lived through could teach others, could inspire others, could connect worlds. "Perhaps," he said finally, "that is what our scars are for, not just reminders of pain, but reminders of what we can endure and what we can teach." Lyra nodded, her silver eyes shining in the dim light. "Then maybe the stories my people tell, they were not exaggerations. They were warnings, but they can also be lessons. And now I see that humans, you, can be more than legends. You can be guides." Jonas smiled faintly. Maybe we're just stubborn. Either way, we endure." The two of them stood side by side, watching the stars slowly appear in the sky. For the first time, Lyra understood the weight behind Jonas's scars, the truth of his courage, and the quiet power of a human willing to face the monsters others feared. And somewhere, far beyond the settlement, in the silent darkness of space, Jonas could feel that the shadows of the past were not yet gone, but for the first time, he did not fear them alone. The settlement on Nareth 4 had settled into a calm routine after the quiet morning. Traders moved from stall to stall, Engines hummed, and children ran in laughter across the dusty streets. But Jonas Hale could feel the subtle tension in the air that only someone with experience against the Void Stalkers could sense. He was repairing a small cargo drone when Lyra approached. Her silver eyes filled with concern. "Something is wrong," she said quietly. "I can feel it." "There's movement in the shadows near the outer hills?" Jonas didn't reply immediately. He wiped his hands on a rag, then turned toward the horizon. The hills were faintly outlined against the pale sky, but the shadows seemed darker than they should be, almost alive. He had seen that pattern before. It was subtle, almost invisible to untrained eyes, but he knew what it meant. "You're right," he said finally. "They're close. More of them." Lyra's expression hardened. "We must warn the settlement. My people. They cannot face these creatures." "They will panic," Eunice nodded. "I know. But panic doesn't help. We need preparation. That's what separates survivors from victims." Together, they walked quickly through the dusty streets, Jonas moving with quiet authority. Traders paused to watch him, sensing the seriousness in his tone, though most had no idea what danger lay ahead. Lyra's presence at his side gave him hope that she could learn, and perhaps help him. At the settlement center, a small crowd had gathered around the communication terminals. Rumors had already begun spreading, traders reporting strange shadows in the distance. Livestock missing and unusual energy readings. Fear was growing, subtle but noticeable. Jonas climbed onto a crate to address the group. "Listen," he said firmly, his voice carrying over the murmurs. "I've faced the creatures that are coming. They are fast, strong, and dangerous. Panicking will only make it worse. Stay calm, follow instructions, and we can get through this." Some of the crowd stared in disbelief. Most didn't know what a Void Stalker looked like, or what it was capable of. But Jonas's calm confidence made them listen. Even in fear, humans and aliens alike recognized experience when they saw it. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "I have knowledge of these creatures from my people's records. They hunt in packs, follow predictable paths, and are cautious around light. If we combine Jonas's experience with my understanding, we can protect the settlement." Jonas nodded at her. He had expected her to be frightened, but her courage impressed him. "Then we'll do exactly that. We'll set up defenses, use lights and traps, and make sure everyone has a safe place." The rest of the day was spent preparing. Jonas and Lyra moved among the settlers, setting up barriers, distributing tools, and marking safe zones. The air buzzed with tension, but also with determination. For many, it was the first time they realized that courage was more than legend, it could be a choice. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jonas and Lyra climbed to the edge of the outer hills. The shadows had deepened, moving strangely across the rocks. Jonas squinted, noting patterns in their movement. "They're scouting," he said. "Testing our defenses. We need to be ready for a strike at nightfall." Lyra's silver eyes widened. "A strike? They will attack us?" "Yes," Jonas said simply. "And when they do, we cannot falter. You stay close to me. Watch and learn, but don't expose yourself unnecessarily." Night fell quickly on Neroth 4, the twin moons rising to cast pale light over the settlement. Jonas moved silently through the streets, checking the traps and lights he had set up. Lyra followed, her alien senses alert to every flicker of shadow. The settlement was quiet, almost unnaturally so, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then the first signs appeared, shapes moving in the darkness beyond the walls. Faster than any animal could run. Jonas's hand brushed a panel, activating a series of lights. The bright beams cut through the shadows, momentarily revealing the creatures' forms. Void Stalkers. Sleek, dark, with elongated limbs, and glowing eyes that reflected the light. They moved with silent precision, circling the settlement, testing the limits of the defenses. Jonas could feel the tension in his muscles. Every instinct honed over years of survival. "They're testing us," he said softly to Lyra, "not yet attacking. They want to see where we are weak." Lyra's eyes shone with a mix of fear and awe. "They are. Terrifying," as Jonas agreed. But we have the advantage. They know shadows, but we have preparation. They strike blindly. We know their patterns. The creatures pressed closer, their movements coordinated, almost intelligent. Jonas signaled to the settlers to stay calm and retreat to safe zones. Then, with a practiced hand, he activated additional traps, rigging lights that would flare when triggered, and energy nets that could slow the stalkers' movements. Lyra followed his instructions, helping to guide frightened settlers and observing how Jonas analyzed the situation. Every movement, every decision he made was precise, deliberate. She realized that survival wasn't just about strength, it was about thinking ahead, predicting danger, and staying calm under pressure. The first attack came just after midnight. One of the stalkers darted from the shadows, striking at a group of settlers near the edge of the platform. Jonas reacted instantly, using a combination of lights and sound traps to disorient the creature. It shrieked in frustration and backed away, only to be met by a second trap Lyra had helped deploy. Together, they managed to drive it back without any serious casualties. Lyra's heart raced as she watched, but she also felt awe. Jonas's scars were no longer just marks of survival. They were proof of experience, skill, and courage. More stalkers appeared, moving faster, more coordinated. Jonas assessed them quickly, signaling to the settlers to remain in safe zones, while he and Lyra took positions to manage the defenses. "We have to control the center," he said. "Keep the lights on them. Keep them disoriented. Don't let them surround us." Lyra nodded, placing her hands on one of the energy panels. She could feel the subtle pulses of the stalker's energy, their hunting patterns. "They avoid light," she whispered. "We can guide them." Jonas smiled faintly. "Exactly. Watch closely. Strategy is more important than strength. Even a single human can turn the tide if they act wisely." The night continued with tense encounters. Stalkers lunged from the shadows only to be caught in carefully prepared traps. Jonas moved with calm precision, shielding settlers, activating defenses, guiding Lyra. Each encounter reinforced a lesson. Courage was not reckless. It was calculated, controlled, and focused. By the early hours of dawn, the stalkers had retreated. The settlement was shaken, but intact. Jonas surveyed the damaged small fires, scattered crates. Minor injuries, but no lives lost. Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes wide. You did it. You saved them all." Jonas shook his head slightly. "We did it. It's not just me. Everyone who followed the plan survived. Courage alone isn't enough. People need to act together with purpose." She studied him, understanding dawning in her expression. "Then humans, you are not just survivors. You are leaders. Even when faced with monsters, you can organize, protect, and endure. That is remarkable." Jonas felt a rare warmth in his chest. He had faced darkness alone before, but this was different. He had shared knowledge, guided others, and inspired confidence. Perhaps this was why he had survived, because courage multiplied when shared. As the twin suns began to rise, casting a gentle glow across the hills, Lyra approached him. "I have learned so much tonight, not just about the creatures, but about humans. You are capable of so much more than we ever imagined. Your courage, it is contagious." Jonas nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in years. "It is, and it grows when people work together. That's why I keep moving forward, even when it's dangerous. Because survival is not just personal, it's for others too." For the first time in many years, Jonas felt a sense of calm after a night of terror. The stalkers were gone, at least for now, but he knew they would return. He also knew that with Lyra's help and the knowledge she carried from her people, they could be ready. Lyra smiled faintly. "Then tomorrow we prepare. Not just to survive, but to face what comes with knowledge and courage. Humans, you truly are remarkable." Jonas chuckled softly. Maybe we're just stubborn." They stood together, watching the first light touch the hills, knowing the peace was temporary. But they also knew that courage, preparation, and trust could turn the tide against any threat. even monsters born from the shadows. And somewhere in the darkness, beyond the settlement, the Void Stalkers paused, sensing resistance. Realizing that the humans and their new allies were not as easy to hunt as they had imagined, night had fallen on Narethfor once more, and the settlement lay under a blanket of silver moonlight. The twin moons cast faint shadows across the dusty streets, and the distant hills were dark and still. But Jonas, Hale, and Lyra knew better. The silence was not peace. It was the calm before the storm. Jonas stood on the outer wall of the settlement, his hands resting on the rail. Every muscle in his body was tense, alert. He could feel the creatures moving in the darkness beyond the hills, the Void Stalkers, fast and silent, testing the boundaries of their defenses. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes scanning the shadows. "They're closer than last night," she said softly. "I can feel their presence." "Yes," Jonas said, "and they're smarter this time. They've learned from yesterday. We have to be ready for anything." He turned to the settlers below, who were busy reinforcing barricades, checking lights, and preparing traps. Jonas gave precise instructions, pointing to weak spots and directing energy panels to focus on the outer gates. Each command was calm, deliberate, and carried the authority of someone who had faced these monsters before. Lyra watched him, fascinated. Every movement he made, every word he spoke, showed experience, skill, and unwavering courage. She had seen humans face challenges before, but this was different. Jonas was not just reacting, he was leading. "Remember," he said to the settlers, "these creatures rely on fear. They hunt in the dark and strike where they think we are weakest. Do not panic. Stay together, follow instructions, and you will survive." The first signs of the attack appeared as faint flickers of movement along the hills. Jonas squinted, analyzing patterns. "They're scouting again," he murmured. "But this time, they're coming in force." Suddenly, the first stalker lunged from the darkness, its elongated limbs moving faster than any creature Lyra had ever seen. It struck toward the outer barricade, but Jonas was ready. He triggered a nearby trap, sending a burst of light directly into its eyes. The creature screeched, staggering back, disoriented. Lyra gasped, her heart pounding. "It's terrifying." Jonas didn't look at her. His focus was total. He moved swiftly, guiding a group of settlers to safety while activating another trap to block a second stalker. "Keep moving. Don't stop," he shouted. The creatures attacked in waves, each faster and more coordinated than the last. Jonas analyzed every movement, predicting their strikes and directing defenses with precision. Lights flared, energy nets deployed, and sound alarms created confusion among the stalkers. Each step, each command, was deliberate, showing not only skill, but a deep understanding of the monster's behavior. Lyra helped where she could, guiding frightened settlers and triggering panels under Jonas's instructions. Her knowledge of the creature's patterns, combined with his experience, created a strong defense. She was learning fast, but nothing could prepare her for what happened next. One of the largest stalkers, a massive creature with glowing eyes and long curved claws, emerged from the shadows. It moved toward a group of settlers, its speed terrifying. Jonas's eyes narrowed. This was the test he had anticipated. "Stay back," he told Lyra. "This one is mine." She hesitated for a moment but nodded, moving to help protect the civilians instead. Jonas faced the creature alone, his body tense, his mind focused. He had fought creatures like this many times, but the fear never fully left him. Every scar on his arms, every memory of past battles, was alive in that moment. The stalker lunged. Jonas dodged, rolling to the side, and activated a trap that sent a blinding light across the creature's eyes. It screeched and lunged again, but Jonas was ready. He used his knowledge of its behavior, predicting its movements, and striking at its weak points with carefully aimed energy pulses. Lyra watched in awe as Jonas moved with precision, guiding his attacks not with brute force, but with intelligence and strategy. Every movement was deliberate, showing courage, skill, and experience. She realized then that human courage was more than boldness. It was patience, foresight, and a refusal to surrender even in the face of overwhelming danger. The stalker roared, circling, striking again and again, but Jonas stayed calm. He led it toward a series of traps, each one slowing it down, confusing it, and buying time for the settlers to retreat. Finally, with a coordinated effort, Jonas activated the final energy net. The creature shrieked, tangled in the glowing strands, and could no longer move. Lyra ran to him, her eyes wide. You did it. You faced it alone. And survived. Jonas exhaled, lowering his hands. It's not just me, he said quietly. It's the traps, the lights, the people following instructions. Courage alone isn't enough. You need preparation, planning, and teamwork. She looked at him, understanding dawning. So the stories, the legends, they were not exaggerations. Humans can face monsters, but it's not reckless bravery. It's intelligence, courage, and leadership combined. Yes, Jonah said. That's what surviving really means. Courage multiplied by preparation. The rest of the night was a battle of strategy and endurance. Stalkers attacked in waves, each more cunning than the last, but Jonas and Lyra coordinated defenses flawlessly. Settlers moved with purpose, following directions, and for the first time, many realized that fear could be managed, controlled, and overcome. By the time the first light of dawn touched the settlement, the stalkers had retreated. The settlement was damaged, some walls broken, a few fires smoldering, but no lives were lost. Jonas surveyed the area, checking the survivors, ensuring everyone was safe. Lyra approached him again, her silver eyes shining. I understand now, humans. You are not just survivors. You are protectors, leaders, and teachers. Even when faced with creatures we fear, you can guide others and endure. Jonas looked at her, feeling a rare pride. It's not about glory. It's about responsibility. Courage is nothing if it doesn't protect someone else. That's what surviving really means. Lyra nodded. Then your scars? They are not just marks of pain. They are symbols of what humans can endure. They are proof that courage is real and it inspires others. Jonas felt the weight of her words. He had spent years hiding from his past, trying to live quietly. But now, with Lyra's understanding, he realized that his experience, saying that even his scars had value beyond survival. They could teach, guide, and inspire. As the twin suns rose fully, bathing the settlement in warm light, Jonas and Lyra stood side by side. The settlement had survived another night, but the threat was not gone. The stalkers would return, and other dangers lay in the universe. But they had learned something important. With courage, preparation, and leadership, even the most terrifying monsters could be faced and defeated. Lyra turned to Jonas, her voice filled with determination. We must prepare for what comes next. Not just to survive, but to protect others, and to show that fear can be overcome. Jonas nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. We will. Together. And somewhere beyond the hills, in the dark silence of space, the Void Stalkers retreated, aware that their prey was no longer defenseless. They had underestimated the courage and skill of a human and the alliance forming between two worlds. For Jonas, the night had reaffirmed something he already knew. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was the choice to face it, to act despite it, and to protect those who could not protect themselves. And with Lyra by his side, sharing knowledge and strength, he knew humanity could teach others what it meant to endure, survive, inspire hope in the darkest of nights. The settlement was battered but alive. The people looked to Jonas with newfound respect, and Lyra looked at him with awe and understanding. Humanity's courage had been proven again. It was a lesson the galaxy would not soon forget. The sun rose slowly over Narathfor, casting golden light over the dusty settlement. The twin moons faded in the morning sky, leaving only the faint glow of stars far beyond the horizon. The night's battle with the Void Stalkers had ended, and the survivors were busy repairing walls, clearing debris. And tending to minor injuries, Jonas Hale walked among the settlers, checking that everyone was safe. Though tired, he moved with calm precision, guiding people to areas that needed attention. Each step reminded him of the night's events, the fear, the attacks, the chaos. And yet, he also remembered the courage he had seen not just in himself, but in the settlers who had followed instructions, braved the darkness, and survived. Lyra moved beside him, her silver eyes scanning the settlement. She had stayed close to Jonas throughout the night, learning, helping, and observing. She had witnessed human courage firsthand, and now she understood what her people's legends could not fully explain. Humans were not just survivors, they were leaders, protectors, and teachers. "You did it," Lyra said softly, her gaze fixed on Jonas. "Not just last night, but over the years. You faced what my people fear most, survived. That takes more than courage. It takes wisdom and strength." Jonas shook his head, brushing dust from his jacket. "It's not about glory. It's about responsibility. Courage isn't just running toward danger, it's thinking, planning, and protecting others. That's how people survive. That's how we endure." Lyra nodded slowly. "Then your scars. They are not marks of pain. They are proof of what humans can endure. They are symbols of hope, courage, and survival. And now, I understand why your species is respected across the stars." Jonas smiled faintly. Few had ever spoken to him with such understanding. "I didn't survive for respect," he said quietly. "I survived because it was necessary. Because someone had to. Because if I didn't, others would have suffered." The settlers around them had begun to take notice. Whispers ran through the crowd, humans speaking to aliens, defending the settlement, guiding people through fear. Jonas's actions had not only protected lives, but they had inspired confidence in everyone who had witnessed them. One of the settlement leaders approached, an older alien named Vorin, with grayish skin and eyes like polished stone. "Jonas Hale," he said with a deep voice, "your courage has saved us. We did not believe humans could face such creatures. Now we see. Not only can you survive, but you can lead, protect, and teach. We are grateful." Jonas nodded respectfully. "I only did what needed to be done. The people here worked together, and that's why they survived. That is the true strength." Vorin's gaze turned to Lyra, "And you, young one, have learned from him. Your people will benefit from his knowledge. We will not forget this night." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she understood the depth of human courage and the weight of responsibility that came with it. She looked at Jonas, who was quietly observing the repairs, his expression calm but alert. "Jonas," she said softly, "I want my people to know what I have learned. Humans are not just stubborn survivors, they are teachers. They face the impossible and endure. They protect others, and they inspire hope where there is fear." He turned to her, surprised by her words. "You would tell your people about me?" "Yes," she replied firmly. "Not just about you, but what humans are capable of. Your courage is a lesson, your scars are proof, and your actions. They show what it means to endure." Jonas felt a rare pride. For years he had hidden his past, avoided attention, and kept his scars covered. Now he realized that surviving, teaching, and sharing courage was not a burden, but a gift. His experiences could inspire others across species, across worlds. The morning progressed, and the settlement gradually returned to normal. Crates were repaired, walls patched, and fires extinguished. The settlers shared food and water, comforting one another after the night of terror. Children cautiously explored the outer areas, asking questions about the strange creatures that had attacked. Jonas patiently explained in simple terms, careful not to frighten them further, but showing them how courage, preparation, and teamwork had saved their lives. Lyra watched him, realizing that courage was not loud or boastful. It was quiet, deliberate, and often hidden behind scars and experience. Humans carried it in a way that inspired others simply by surviving, acting, and protecting. Later, in the central plaza, Jonas and Lyra stood together. looking at the distant hills where the stalkers had retreated. "They'll be back," Jonah said quietly. "Creatures like these always return. But next time, we'll be ready." Lyra nodded. "And I will help prepare my people. I will teach them what I learned from you. The galaxy must know that fear can be faced and courage can endure." Jonas's gaze softened. "You've learned fast, and you've done well. But remember, courage is not just about facing monsters. It's about protecting others, even when you're afraid. That's what truly matters." She smiled. "Then, I understand now. Humans are not just legends. They are real, and their courage is something my people will remember." Word of the settlements. Defense spread quickly across the trading outposts and colonies of NetNarrator. Traders spoke in hushed tones about the human who had faced the Void Stalkers and survived. Aliens who had once underestimated humans now looked at them with respect, realizing that courage, determination, and intelligence could turn the tide against even the deadliest of threats. For Jonas, the recognition was quiet, almost unnoticed. He didn't seek praise, but he could see its effect in Lyra, in Vorin, and in the settlers whose lives he had helped save. Courage was contagious. Knowledge was powerful. And survival, when shared, became inspiration. As the day drew to a close, Jonas returned to his small repair shop, Lyra at his side. She looked at him with quiet admiration. "I want to stay with you for a while," she said. "Learn more. See how humans endure. Understand how courage grows in small steps and through hardship." He nodded slowly. "You're welcome. There's a lot to learn, and even more to see. Courage isn't just fighting monsters. It's about living, protecting, and teaching others to do the same." Lyra smiled. "Then I will learn, and I will carry this knowledge back to my people. Humans are remarkable, not just in strength, but in spirit." Jonas glanced at the horizon, the twin suns setting in a golden haze. The universe was vast and full of dangers, and the shadows of the Void Stalkers still lingered somewhere beyond the hills. But for the first time in many years he felt hope not just for himself, but for others. He had survived the impossible, taught courage, and inspired understanding across worlds. The scars on his arms, once marks of pain and survival, now felt like symbols of endurance, proof of what one human could do when faced with darkness. And Lyra, standing beside him, was a living reminder that courage could inspire, knowledge could travel across species, and hope could grow even in the harshest of worlds. As night fell, the settlement was quiet and safe. The stars shone brightly above, a reminder of the vast universe beyond NetNarrator. Jonas and Lyra stood together, watching the sky, knowing that this was only the beginning. Other challenges would come, other dangers would arise, but humanity's courage had proven itself, and it would continue to shine across the galaxy. And somewhere in the darkness, beyond the hills and beyond the moons, the Void Stalkers paused. Sensing the strength they had underestimated, they had learned that humans were not merely prey, they were protectors, fighters, and survivors. The galaxy was waking up to a truth long hidden: courage, wisdom, and endurance could turn legends into reality. Jonas turned to Lyra. Tomorrow we prepare again," he said softly. She nodded. "And we will, together." In that moment, the scars, the stories, and the lessons of survival all came together. Humanity had faced the monsters that others feared. Humanity had endured. And humanity's courage had inspired a new respect between worlds, a bridge of understanding that would carry hope into the farthest reaches of space.